All right, we're recording. Good morning, everyone. All right, Indira, you've got demos today.
Yes. So welcome everyone who wants to go first with their demos. Rachel, you joined first today. You get to start. Your team.
I was trying to just pull up the issue so I can have everything ready before we start talking.
Let me just, I have like a million different windows open because I've been doing too much because I'm like procrastinating on stuff. All right. Okay. I have like so many. All right. So let's see what are, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Shane, if you want to pull up our code, I can pull up the issue and the Netlify because it's like working on the site now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I have it up now.
Okay, cool. I like don't know what I'm doing. So.
I have the issue too if you want, or I can send you the link to it. Or I think you have it now.
Yeah. Well, that's like the closed one. So our issue was, as a user, I want to mark an item on my shopping list as purchased so the app can learn how often I buy different items. And the acceptance criteria was users able to check a checkbox or tap a checkbox or similar UI element to mark an item in the list as purchased. And then the item should be shown as checked for 24 hours after purchase is made. And we assume the user does not need to buy the item again for at least one day. So when we go to our app right now, it's going to have my, it already has my local storage for the most recent token. So it's automatically just like going to open to my list. And you can see that I had checked bubbly water less than 24 hours ago. So it's still remaining checked. And then like if I check greens, it will remain checked for 24 hours. So if I go to like add another item, kind of soon, I guess. Submit it. We view our list. You'll see greens is still checked, even though I just like added coffee. And it will keep being checked for 24 hours. So I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna let Shane share how we worked through it code-wise.
Awesome. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So logically, in terms of managing how we were going to update which items were checked and how we were going to update that in the database as well as on the client side, what we did was within the map that we already had to like display all of the list items, we included checkboxes within that map associated to each item and gave it the value name and ID of the item name and the item ID. So we made two functions, a handle change or an on change handle check function, and then like a handle timing function. So what the on change handle check function does is essentially marks whether or not the is checked value, which pretty much like checks the checkbox as true or false. We set it equal to like whether or not that specific checkbox is set as true or false. And basically, we have an object in state that saves the item name as the key and whether or not each item is checked as a true or false value. So essentially, for example, if we checked off food and another item, what that object looks like, and I probably could show it in state, is food true, another item true. Yeah. So we have food true, another item true. And then we have everything else marked as false because it's not currently checked. So also what the handle checked function will do is update the database based on a function that we have defined below. So essentially, we're querying into the database, saving the reference to that current document in the database, and then updating the field for last purchased and last purchase date within the database. And the only difference is that last purchased, I believe, is in seconds, whereas the last purchase date is like a more formatted date. So it'll be like November 1st at whatever time it was actually checked. And then to handle whether or not a checkbox is checked or unchecked whenever you sign into the page, we have in like a component did mount use effect setup that essentially takes the current time as the date object and essentially goes through that last purchased items array and it compares the time that was checked for the last purchased item to the time that it currently is. And if the time has been greater than a day in seconds, then it would uncheck that checkbox and also update it in the database. I think something that we did also update to handle some of this functionality was updating the initial database call that we had set up in our list context. So essentially, I think initially we were not using our like document IDs, which essentially is a very easy way to select and identify like the specific document you're looking for when you're querying into the database. And so we just went ahead and included that into the state that we initially set up with context and list context. And essentially it just saves like time when we're trying to query into it in the view list component, but also if we ever need to query into it in any other component, it would also save time and theoretically be like less expensive.
Yeah, it's the easiest way to update the fields and the items. So after we had office hours on Wednesday, we kind of reworked it, the context, added it so we can like we were able to just grab the ID off of the event and then like do it much faster.
Yeah, all of this looks good. Something that I really liked that both teams have done is like, you guys have like experience naming things. One of the hardest things in programming is how to name things. I guess a small feedback that I just noticed was when you are creating the actual bullet items, you have the index as the key. And React really doesn't like that. So like that's kind of like what they do by default anyways. So when they're asking you to get a key, they want something that's gonna be unique across renders. So maybe like if you have an ID on the item that could be used as a key as well. But using the index as the key, like sometimes you're deleting things in the wrong order and it's gonna cause things to get messed up because React doesn't know what to update if the keys are not consistent across render.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that's a really good point. Yeah.
Earlier point of like including the doc IDs in our list context, we actually totally could.
You could do it right now, yeah.
Yeah, instead of using
it. Yeah, that's such a better way. I feel like someone told me a while ago to use index, but this makes more sense for being unique.
Yeah, even like in the React documentation, it says like use index as the last resort.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this looks great. I'd love to see the Firebase console up next to, like, just see the dates change and stuff as you mark stuff off. I trust you, but I just want to see, you know, like if we change something, like change the date in the console, then see if it updates in the UI too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can also update something right now. Like I'm gonna click on coffee and it will be like the last updated.
Cool.
So this is what you just clicked off, right? Coffee at 12:06. No, that's 12:06. It's, oh yeah, last purchase date 12/13. And then you would have to tell me what list you're in so that I can. If we say the last purchase date was like a day ago.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the user token would be the list. So if you just copy the user token down there, that will
Oh, yeah, good point. Thank you.
work.
I don't know if that will work though, because we're doing it based on the seconds, not based on that last purchase date.
Yeah, it might have to be another day back just to be safe, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, this would have to be
The
this,
milliseconds or like the epoch or whatever that is.
Oh.
yeah. How many seconds did we say we're in a day? We can just subtract it from this number and then.
There might be
86,400. Is that right?
Well, it's actually the millisecond, so you have to subtract. It's like 8,600,000. What is it? It's like
You can just go to an epoch time converter and click yesterday or 2 days ago, and that will give you.
I think it's 86,400,000. I think, right?
to subtract. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you subtracted 100 million.
Oh, you're saying if I took off, I'm sorry, I'm like really struggling with this number right here.
Yeah, so.
Wait, do you want me to do a time converter?
Or if you could just take this number and subtract.
So where it has a 50 in the middle, you would change that to a 49.
Okay, thank you.
That should do it. We'll see if I'm right.
Oh, yeah, and then. Like, oh no, yeah, it's the creek shim. Mm-hmm.
My math was probably wrong.
Maybe not.
Back with the.
It's still true. Okay, let me just like let's just change the number.
That should be like 2 days ago in epoch time, in milliseconds.
The 49.
What I just shared in chat.
Oh, okay. Oh, I think I had you adjust the wrong magnitude or something.
Oh wait, can I see that? I feel like I can't see the chat while I'm sharing.
Okay. I'm gonna just Slack it to you. There's like some things. Hello.
Where it says 42, you could just change it to 40.
This part, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That should do it. Oh, look, it already up-checked too. You didn't even have to refresh. That's awesome. Nice.
The math was a struggle, but gladly the logic.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool. I like that. It's pretty clever to keep the document ID along in state as well to make it easier to query in other places. Smart.
Yeah, I think as we continue to add on like more functionality, it'll be just like more streamlined this way as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's all Stacy's suggestion too. So.
Oh.
And then to have it as like the event too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Shane and Rachel. Rebecca Nadra.
Awesome.
What are you in the mood to do today?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll give user's choice. You're a user.
Oh God. I'll explain things today. I do have it up, but we'll see how this goes.
I like it. Okay, I'm gonna. So I'll talk through the issue. So, number 7, as a user, I want to see a welcoming prompt to add my first item if my list is empty, and to help me get oriented on how the app works. So the acceptance criteria was the list view when there are no items to display should show a prompt, for example, a button to the user to add their first item. And then, sorry.
We haven't merged to master yet because we wanted to include Indira's feedback, and we just haven't got a chance to do that yet. So it will be pushed to master soon. We just wanted to include that feedback before we pushed. Okie dokie.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, okay. So let us start in view list. Or start view list.
Are you seeing view list?
No.
So we are currently seeing you code, like VS Code. That's what you're sharing.
Yeah. Oh, do you want? Oh, you want the app? Sorry. Is this what you wanted, Audra? Oh wait, huh? It says it's paused sharing. Sorry. There we go.
No worries.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
weird.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Apparently, when I switch screens, it pauses everything. Who knew?
So what we did was we refactored the conditional rendering of the list items so that instead of just returning null if there were no list items, we added the user prompt so you don't have any items, and then we linked to add items, encouraging users to add their first item, which is basically the acceptance criteria. How we did that was we used .length on the user list. And then in list context, we found we had to add an empty array to the use state for user list and set user list so that we could call the .length method, because before it was just an empty object. Yeah, in app, we did some, so before the nav would be persistent throughout all the pages, regardless of whether you had a user token or not. So we took that out. So now once you have a user token, the view list and add items show up. And this is the part where we're going to use Indira's feedback to kind of simplify that out a little bit. And shout out to Rachel for finding that the nav wouldn't appear even if you had a user token unless you did a hard refresh. So we put that into the router itself to address that. And then that will have to also be refactored to do that private rendering from Indira's feedback. Rebecca, did I miss anything?
No, I think that's it. So now when you go in and for example, me, I don't have a, let's see. Let's try this. When I don't have a list, it says add your first item, and then you can do to add a new
we're
item.
still seeing just VS Code.
Really?
Yeah. Do you want me to do it?
Weird. Yeah, go ahead. I don't know why it's doing that.
Sometimes you share a specific program and not the whole screen.
Oh,
And it
interesting.
kind of gets stuck in whatever program you were sharing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Rebecca, did you want to do the walkthrough?
Oh, sure. So yeah, if you land on the landing page here without a token, you can either join a new list. So all that's the same, but you'll notice that the navigation at the bottom is removed because you don't have any list to see or anything to add yet. And then you create a new list. And then here it gives you the little, you don't have any items, add your first item that links you over to the add items form here. I think there were some additional little rerouting things that we kind of picked up as we were doing the nav, just kind of redirects that weren't currently being taken into account. So just a couple little minor things bundled in with ours.
Oh.
Looks really good. And it's also good because you're like taking work out of your future self and you're incorporating things that you're seeing along the way. Like all of those routes, like they weren't part of your acceptance criteria, but you still wanted to make your life easier in the future.
Yeah.
Cool. Did anybody have anything else to add about our demos? They look lovely, guys. Anything? Cool. Then if we're ready, it looks like Eddie's not going to be able to join us. So we're going to move on to retros, right? Okay. Let me find.
I can run this if you want, because I think Eddie was supposed to run it.
Yeah, he was. I went ahead and I created the retro board. But
Yeah,
if you want to run it, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Sure. So I put in the Zoom chat the link to the retro board. Since I haven't been with you up and before this point, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut and just observe. But what we'll do is on the board, I think you've done a retro before, so you probably know the deal. But we're going to talk about appreciations, what went well, what kept us from making progress, and then we'll have a discussion about it and come up with a couple of action items at the end. So we'll take let's see, take 10 minutes maybe. Is that too much? I guess let's plan to take 10 minutes to add cards to the board. When you're done, if you just put in the chat that you're done, and then if people finish early, we can move on to actually talking through the cards faster. So,
Shane, I know you missed our first retro. Are you good? Do you know what's going on?
Yeah, we're pretty much like adding cards in each column, and then we're going to discuss.
Yeah. So retros are a really common thing that software teams do to just you just take a pause every so often to just try to improve how you work together as a team. So the appreciations is nice for just kind of building camaraderie. What went well is, you can also think of that as things we should keep doing, right? So if there's something that we're doing that's working well, let's highlight that to make sure we don't lose it. And then the last column is really about just things that we can improve as a team, either process wise or there could be things about the code itself or something too, if you're just maybe we need to restructure this thing or refactor it. So cool. All right, start the timer. Not really. No, keep an eye on the clock. We all ready? Billy, look, Rebecca, you ready? I didn't see it done in the chat for you. Yep, we're good? Cool. All right, I shall share my screen. So yeah, so what we'll do is we'll talk through each column, top to bottom, and then we'll go on to the next column. So we'll just go in order to the cards. So Indira, you want to start us off with appreciations?
So everyone collaborates like so much within this team. So I really appreciate that. And also like how everyone is so open whenever I make pull request comments, because I'm not really much of an MVP kind of person. I'm more of a everything needs to be done like the way it should be. And that's the kind of the feedback I give, because I know later on there's really no time to come back. Once you merge something, you're like done with it. So I really appreciate how everyone is open to that feedback that I give in the PRs. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Shane?
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out Rachel, I guess, for directing our code during office hours, because we were making a lot of changes and there were a lot of things kind of like going on. And I think even we at that time were getting a bit lost in our own logic, but she did a really good job of like keeping track of everything and then going back in later and reformatting it and adding in comments so that we understood like where we were going and what we had changed. And also to Stacy for like the advice she gave us during office hours, which really like helped us with our initial issue, but also just like our perspective of the app, like down the line, giving more foresight there.
Nice. Rebecca. Oh, you're muted.
Back. Rachel, for being really thorough in all the review of code. I think that every week that you're doing a great job of just reviewing everything top to bottom and finding issues along the way. So I really appreciate that thoroughness. And then just to the group, I think each week we're all pushing not for the first answer, but for the best answer, to really try to grow our knowledge base and to put out something that we're proud of rather than just simply completing the task at the first level.
Nice. Audra?
So to my partners this week, thank you, or these past 2 weeks, thank you so much for being awesome. I really appreciate your patience as I attempted to learn context as we were using it, and just generally being awesome and like patient and explaining and like collaborative. And to the mentors, thank you for being able and available for help, and also explaining things thoroughly and not just being like, this is how you do it, but also, I probably said this last week, but also like, this is why you do this. Because I think that's really helping us, like Rebecca said, like do things the best way and not just like getting it done and then having to go back and like try to make it pretty. And yeah, thank you.
Cool. Rachel?
I'm very appreciative of Shane's availability and like tenacity all week, because we initially thought this was gonna be easy. And like the other group submitted their PR on Monday and we actually had to work on it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and maybe even a little Friday. And then also for Stacy's help in office hours and for everyone, because I was live coding during office hours and that's really tough. So I just like appreciate the compassion because I was getting a little anxious, but I think it ended up being fine.
Yeah, this week is probably the week where the workload is the most unbalanced of the whole project. So, but nice job hanging in there with it. And Allie?
I just want to say I appreciate everyone's consistent communication. PRs are just moving along nicely when you know, pull request is ready, the other team gets notified. Once they're done, the mentors get notified. It's been wonderful. So great job. And I want to say I appreciate Indira's code reviews because I always learn something. I've been struggling with doing code reviews the last couple of weeks. I've just, my brain space has been a little fuzzy. So Indira's code reviews have been amazing. So thank you.
Nice. Very good. All right, and then on to what went well. So Rachel, you're at the top of this column.
Well, I think our team we're great as working as a unit, which is really fun. The persistence and willingness, and then just like kind of to reiterate what people are saying, I think there's like an attitude in the whole team. It's just like continuously improving upon and reevaluating as we go along, which is very like agilely, and just kind of, as Rebecca was saying, we're not going for the first thing, but like what is the best for like our application and our understanding of like coding and JavaScript and React. So that's great.
Nice. All right, Rebecca.
Yeah, I think just to kind of build on that, our cross communication between the teams each week has been really good. And that for me has done two things. One, when I jump into review code from the other team, I'm not coming in cold. I kind of have a little bit of a background in what they've been doing, so I know what to look for. So I think that helps me be a little bit more thorough. But also then there are fewer conflicts when we're going to merge. So like that whole process of knowing what the other team is doing every week, I think has been working really well.
Great. Audra?
Yeah, and just to build off that, I love that we've been all like working together, and like Rebecca said, it really has been helping with our PRs because we know what everybody's doing, or we at least have an idea, and then when we go to merge, I recognize like their code and I'm like, oh, right, they need that. Or like, yes, they did that. And like, here's how we can like resolve this conflict without like stepping on each other's toes. And I think that's really fantastic.
Very cool. All right, Shane.
Yeah, I think just to build on to my further like appreciation comment, I just really felt like office hours, like we really got good feedback out of it as it pertained to like specifically what our issue was. But also I feel like Stacy was really patient in like us like kind of understanding the flow of our own data, but also like giving insight into like some of the issues that we were seeing and how we could resolve them down the line. So I just thought like it was a really good use of that amount of time. And also apologize to the other team if they had questions because we kind of took up that session.
Cool. Allie?
Oh, so I haven't actually managed to make it to office hours the last couple of weeks. So I just want to say that, like, coming out of it, everybody seems so excited about having done office hours and having learned something about at office hours, and the project having been, you know, organized or streamlined during office hours. So I wanted to say it seems like that's been going really well.
Cool. I'm basically all I have to go off of is the first 10 or 15 minutes of this meeting. So, but although I would echo the things that people said about communication in the chat. Like it's very thorough and it's very much tagging the right people in at the right times and stuff. So that's all good. But the demos, seeing those for the first time, the way that you shared time is great, and then very thoroughly talking through both the AC and the actual code. Really well done. I mean, it's really nice demos. Good job. And Indira.
Oh, basically the same thing. Great collaboration across all the teams. So you probably heard from Stacy how like they all merged everything together for last week's things. So like they resolved everything in both issues to get to use context and stuff like that. So it's great to see all that collaboration across both the pairs. I think like the cadence of this team is really great. Like they get PRs out soon, they update based on feedback, and it makes it such that like by Sunday we're merging things. Things keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, and then we only have 3 cards over here in things that we could do better, and it looked like Rebecca had to drop off or something, or maybe her connection was bad. I only see 6 faces now.
We do appear to have lost her.
Yes. I don't see anything in Slack. So Rachel, why don't you go, then Shane, and then see if Rebecca rejoins.
I just was like taking a peek at the issue for this upcoming week, and it looks like we're doing more stuff around time and dates. And I know there had been some suggestions about maybe adding a time date dependency because the JavaScript time object is kind of annoying to deal with. So that's just maybe something we can consider.
Yeah, good idea. Shane?
A problem that we ran into one night while we were like doing a lot of like updates or making a lot of database calls is essentially like I had my code editor on autosave, and so every time it was like I was typing in anything or I had a function that was running and making a call to the database, it was like running up our limit. And the limit's huge, but I think now that like we have inputs specifically on the view list page that like if you click them, it will update the database. Like, or if you update something that checks or unchecks them in the code, it'll update the database. You might hit a limit. One thing that Stacy told us in office hours is that we could just like spin up another Firebase app in the event that that happens and change the config file for now to like match that new database. But also I probably will like not use autosave in the way that I'm using it right now while I'm updating those files specifically.
Yeah, I mean, and just to be clear, almost every team that's ever come through Collab Lab has hit the rate limits. And there's a couple of points in the project where that happens. So I'm not surprised to hear that. And yeah, there is, like we kind of learned early on that like we could quickly spin up another database, swap out some keys and just keep going. Yeah, some of the things that have led to that before, like a use effect that would just kind of spin and just like, you know, kind of keep hitting the database because it's never like it doesn't have a default value, I guess is why it would do that. And then the other case is we're going to add a filter to the list, and you know some people have it hitting the database on every keystroke. So you can imagine you're like sitting there testing and testing all these different things, and like it's just hitting the database with every keystroke. That's another time when that happens. So there are some workarounds for that one too, but I'm not sure if that's this week or not. But yeah, good call. Let's see, and then sounds like Rebecca is not able to rejoin us, right?
Yeah, her internet is out. She is working on it, but
okay. Hopefully she's back in time to talk about the upcoming week's issues, but I'll just read her card. So at start of pair programming, it might be helpful to dedicate the first portion to developing a commentary roadmap on how we expect to complete the issue / steps to be taken. And I actually really like that comment. It's I think what she's getting at is just kind of talking through a plan before you kind of start off on the coding, right? So that's a good call. Are any of these things are these things that we want to that the group would like to make into an action item?
I actually add one more thing. I just remembered.
Yeah,
that,
sure.
When Shane and I were just testing the app this week, we did come across an error with the use effect, I think in context, where it was like the memory leak one with the unmount. Remember? I think I like put it in the group chat. And it's just something that we should add to the action item to deal with this week.
Cool. It's a use effect. The date time dependency. So you're talking about like Moment or Day.js or something like that. A library that makes it easier to deal with dates, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I was gonna just check. Yeah, I was gonna check in to see what the mentors thought about that too.
Yeah, a lot of teams go that route because it is, like you're saying, it is annoying to deal with raw JavaScript dates. So is that something that the group would like to have as an action item for this coming week?
I think it might be helpful if we're doing more time stuff. If it can streamline it, you know.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with like a ton of date libraries for JavaScript. I think if there's one that has methods specifically for date comparison, it could be useful for sure.
Yeah,
Didn't
so
Moment get deprecated recently?
Yeah, Moment, I think, yeah, Moment is a little bit heavyweight, and I think there is something about like they're not, it's not that it's deprecated, it's that they're not going to continue working on it because it's basically feature complete. So, but there's one that's called Day.js, which is has the same API as Moment, but is like a fifth the size or something. So, but yeah, I think it's probably a good idea to do that and those do have a way to say like, here's one date, like a date object, here's another date object, how many days in between, how many seconds in between, those kinds of things. So it's super helpful.
Yeah, I'm gonna share a quick link in Slack. It's sort of It's moment.js says you may not need moment. Here are the other options. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I guess some features have been added to just the raw JavaScript object too, right? Is that another part of it?
They're also doing like a new date for JavaScript itself in their next version. I know like a couple of months ago, they were having some surveys on like what should the new date framework for
nice.
JavaScript be.
That's exciting. All right.
So like they're trying to get it back into JavaScript. But,
and so Rebecca had this suggestion about kind of trying to come up with a narrative about what the plan is. Is that something that we want to try to do? And if we do that, where would that go?
I feel like in collaborating with everyone these past couple of weeks, like I think that like has been happening in a non-formal way. Like we'll kind of like talk through it in like the first few minutes of like sharing or starting a meeting. But I think that could be helpful to like write down write down that logic of like how we plan to tackle that. I'm not entirely sure like where that would be saved, just like somewhere where both people can reference.
I mean, would it work to put it in the sharing threads, or would it be better in like a draft PR description, or?
Yeah, I was wondering, is it something we want to have on like GitHub or in Slack?
Yeah.
I feel like Slack is more accessible for me, or just like easier, because I feel like we are having a lot of our meetings through Slack too.
Yeah, Slack makes sense to me.
Okay, cool. And if Slack does have the disadvantage of just, the stuff kind of scrolls away and all that kind of stuff. But if it's in that thread, you'll always know where to get to it. And if we find it doesn't work, we can adjust and try a different approach later, right? Cool. All right. I think I will suggest that 3 action items is probably plenty for a team this size to take on. So, but these are really good ones. I think, this is a great idea to add that library, that memory leak. I like this, the emphasis. It's probably something that you could get by without, through the whole project without actually fixing, and it would be kind of fine, quote unquote, because it's, we're reloading the page a lot and stuff, but it's a really nice thing to like try to tidy that up. And then, yeah, I think it's a great practice to talk through the approach, kind of come to some consensus about what you're going to try to do, and then document it before you start tapping away at the keyboard. So nice. All right. Thank you all for your contributions to the retro.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. My mom's dropping off cat food.
Okay.
I'm trying to find our stories anyway. All right, can people see our stories for the week?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to go through and read both stories. After we've listened, we can talk about who wants what and make a bit of a plan for the week. So issue 9 is, as a user, I want to filter my shopping list to make it easier to locate an item in the list. So the acceptance criteria for this one is going to be to display a text field above the top of the shopping list. And as the user types into the field, the list should narrow to display only the items that contain the text the user entered in the filter field. When the field has text in it, the user should be able to tap a UI element, for example, an X button next to the field, to clear the field. The filter text should match any part of the item name. In other words, it should not only match from the start of the string. So that's issue 9. Issue 10 is, as an item, I want my estimated next purchase date to be computed at the time my purchase is recorded in the database, so the app can learn how often I buy different items. The acceptance criteria for this one When a purchase is recorded, the estimated number of days until the next purchase date should be calculated. Okay, hold on. I'm going to try this again. When a purchase is recorded, the estimated number of days until the next purchase date should be calculated and recorded in the database. And there is a script in the source libestimates.js file that is used to calculate the next estimated purchase interval. It looks like Rebecca is trying to get back in. Sorry. To let her. There we go.
Hey,
There she is.
Okay, guys.
So quick summary. I just read through the. We finished our retro. I just read through the 2 issues.
Okay.
Quick summary. Issue 9 is we're filtering our shopping list.
Okay.
And issue 10 is we are computing the next purchase date.
Okay.
There are, let's see, there is the script, sorry, there's the script in our estimates file that helps us do that.
Okay.
Okay, and now moving on. Yeah, sorry, I'm reading a couple of notes. Going to show, well, maybe.
By the way, these wireframes are super helpful
Oh, good.
in trying to figure out, you know, kind of what the anticipated task is. So for whoever put them together or groups of people, thank you.
It's this guy.
No.
Somebody has 2 thumbs and put wireframes together.
So this is for our filter shopping list issue. This is our input, and then the idea is as you type, things start disappearing down here. Correct,
Okay.
Andrew?
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yeah. So like if you typed an E, the 24-ounce puppuccino would go away, right? And then you type a G, and I guess everything else would go away, other than eggs. So yeah, that kind of thing. Like as you're typing, it kind of just narrows it down to the things that match.
Oh, so it doesn't just start at the beginning. It starts with like matching that case of words to any point in the
Right.
item. Okay.
Yep. Actually, so the wireframes are intentional in having an N with a little squiggle on it, right? So you might want to talk through as a team, like whether you match N and end with a squiggle when a user types N. You know what I mean? Like, is a user going to know how to type the N with a squiggle? I don't know. There's probably a word for that, a name for that character, but
Tilde, I think.
yeah, is that a tilde? Yeah, I guess you're right. Yep. So anyway, that's or you could not get that complicated because the AC don't talk about it.
and then just real quick.
So that, like I mentioned earlier, that is one of the issues where people tend to bust through the rate limits. And why that usually is that they are hitting the database on every keystroke when what you could be doing is comparing against a list that's just in memory in the app, right? So that's probably where you need to be narrowing and then just rendering whatever the result is. But then this always seems to throw people off too.
Yes, that's why I pulled it up. Everybody can see this code here for calculating the estimate. It's been a while since I looked at this code. Okay. But the idea is that you feed it oh gosh. Andrew, do you want to walk through this real quick?
Yeah, no problem. And so the last estimate is whatever is currently stored on the item as the estimated next purchase. So, when you first add an item, the user is going to say soon, kind of soon, not soon, right? And so whatever that's the first, if it's the first time that they're actually purchasing, it's just that number, 7, 14, or 30. The idea is that as they start to make purchases, we start to adjust what that number is. But the first parameter is that last estimate, whatever the current estimated next purchase is in the database. The latest interval is the number of days between the most recent purchase and the previous purchase. So the current purchase, basically. They're saying it's marked like they just bought it, that's today. And then there's some number of days that have passed since the last time they bought it. And that's stored on the item in the database. So we just make a comparison. And that's where this date library is going to come in handy. So you need the number of days since the last purchase. So that's that second parameter. And then just the number of times that it's been purchased. So so if they bought it 16 times, it's a 16, right? So that implies that you're tracking that in the database as well. So that's probably not something you have on the item schema at the moment, so you might need to add that. But the idea is that, like when I first built this app for myself, I was recording every single purchase separately, and then I was doing math like that. But then I quickly realized that was going to make for a very big database and expensive queries and all this kind of stuff. So I figured out this little algorithm to make it so that I could just have one record for the item with these 3 data points and be able to actually calculate the estimates. So anyway, yeah, is it clear what those 3 things are? Does those all make sense? And is future you gonna you'll be able to look at there's a little description there in the code block or the comment block. Is that gonna be able to trigger the right things tomorrow or whatever you prepare? And if not, it's fine. You can come back and ask questions in the channel or whatever. But
all right. If there are any other questions about the estimates, then does anybody have any opinions on who wants to do what?
I don't want to do the time one just because I really like math. Rebecca, are you okay with that?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay, so you want issue 10?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. You guys, Shane, Andre, are you good with that?
Yep.
Awesome. I do not want to assign myself. I do that every time. No, stop. Okay. This is Rebecca and Rachel, yes? Okay.
You can just call us the Rachels if you want.
Or the Rebeccas.
That's fine.
Okay, and then this Shane and Audra. Any other questions about the issues real quick? Cool, then I think the only other thing we need is Indira, you've got office hours this week, I think.
Rachel, did you have a question?
Oh,
I was going to let Rebecca know that while she was gone, we took her suggestion and added it to the action item in the repo about making a roadmap and putting it in Slack. I don't know if we wanted to share that with her.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I just want to, since I did miss that, I wasn't trying to subtly throw that in anyone's court. That's as much of a comment for me as anything else. So it wasn't a try to slight someone else to try to say oh, you know what you guys should really do.
no, it was good. Thank you. And thank you for mentioning that, Rachel.
So Thursday, 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. Does that work for everyone?
That works for me.
So our standard time.
Yep. Yeah, I think Wednesday there's a tech talk, so I don't want to.
Oh yeah, Wednesdays there's a tech talk. Yeah.
That's all.
True, yeah.
All right. Well, does anybody have anything else?
We'll do that. Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah.
Did somebody need to say something?
I was gonna say we're gonna do that refactor shortly and do the merge to the main.
Awesome. Cool. Well, if that's everything, then I want to wish everyone a wonderful week. And as always, your mentors will be around in Slack to help, and just let us know if you need anything. Have a wonderful week.